The café was half empty when Hannah Lloyd spilled her entire portfolio across the polished floor, papers scattering like leaves in a windstorm. And she wanted to disappear into the ground as expensive leather shoes stopped inches from her scattered dreams. "I've got it, please, just don't step on them," she said frantically, dropping to her knees in her worn jeans and paint-stained sweater. The shoes didn't move. Instead, their owner crouched down beside her, and she found herself staring into the most intense gray eyes she had ever seen. "These are incredible," the man said, his voice deep and smooth as he carefully picked up one of her watercolor sketches. He held it like it was something precious, not just another rejected piece from her morning's disaster of a gallery meeting. "They're nothing special," Hannah muttered, reaching for the painting he held. Her fingers brushed his, and she felt an electric jolt that made her pull back quickly. "Just some amateur work." "Amateur?" He looked at her with genuine surprise, still holding the watercolor of the harbor at sunset. "This is exceptional. The way you've captured the light on the water, the emotion in something so simple." Hannah felt her cheeks flush. She wasn't used to compliments, especially not from men who wore suits that probably cost more than her rent. She gathered the rest of her papers quickly, shoving them into her battered portfolio case without any care for order. "Thank you for not stepping on them," she said, standing up too fast and nearly losing her balance. He stood with her steady and calm, and she realized he was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair that was perfectly styled but somehow still looked effortlessly casual. "I'm Connor," he said, extending his hand. "Connor Zimmerman." She hesitated before taking his hand. "Hannah Lloyd." His handshake was firm, confident, and warm. He didn't let go immediately, and she found herself trapped in those gray eyes again, unable to look away. "Can I buy you a coffee, Hannah, to make up for the scare?" "You didn't scare me. I'm just clumsy." "Then let me buy you a coffee because I'd like to talk to you about your art." Hannah should have said no. She had a dozen things to do, bills to pay, another gallery to disappoint. But something in his expression made her nod, and 5 minutes later they were sitting at a corner table with steaming cups between them. "So what happened this morning?" Connor asked, leaning back in his chair with an ease that suggested he owned the world. "What makes you think something happened? You're carrying a portfolio at 10 in the morning, you looked devastated when you dropped it, and you're drinking coffee like it's medicine." Hannah laughed despite herself. "That obvious? I'm observant." She wrapped her hands around her cup, feeling the warmth seep into her cold fingers. "Gallery rejection. The 5th one this month. They said my work is too emotional, too raw, not commercial enough." She shrugged like it didn't matter, but her voice betrayed her. "What gallery? Does it matter?" "They're all the same. They want safe, predictable art that matches people's couches." Connor was quiet for a moment, studying her face. "What if I told you I own a building downtown with empty wall space that could use some emotion and rawness?" Hannah's eyes narrowed. "Are you seriously trying to rescue me right now? Because I don't need rescuing, and I definitely don't need pity." "It's not pity. I genuinely think your work would transform the space. It's a restaurant I'm opening next month. High-end, but I want it to feel alive, not sterile." "You're opening a restaurant, among other things." There was something he wasn't saying, but Hannah was too proud to dig. She looked at him carefully, taking in the expensive watch, the tailored suit, the way he carried himself. "What do you do, Connor?" "I invest in things I believe in." It was a non-answer, but before she could press, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and felt her stomach drop. Her landlord. Again. "I should go," she said, standing up quickly. "Wait." Connor pulled a card from his wallet. "Come by tomorrow, 2 o'clock, bring your portfolio." "I'm serious about the restaurant." Hannah took the card, more out of politeness than anything else. The address was in the expensive part of downtown, the part where she usually felt like an intruder. I'll think about it. Please do. She left the café feeling confused and strangely hopeful, which was dangerous. Hope had disappointed her too many times. That night, in her tiny studio apartment with its leaking faucet and temperamental heater, Hannah spread out her paintings on the floor. She saw them through Connor's eyes, trying to understand what he saw. The harbor sunset he had held so carefully. A series of portraits she'd done of her neighbors, capturing their quiet moments of joy and sadness. Abstract pieces that came from somewhere deep inside her, places she didn't like to examine too closely. Maybe he was serious. Maybe this was her chance. Or maybe he was just another rich guy who thought he could fix things with money and good intentions. She went to bed without deciding, but when she woke up the next morning, she found herself choosing her best outfit, which wasn't saying much. Clean jeans, a soft green sweater that brought out her eyes, her least scuffed boots. She spent extra time on her hair, pulling it into a neat ponytail that still left soft waves around her face. The building was even more impressive than she'd expected. Glass and steel, modern and elegant, situated in the heart of downtown with a view of the harbor. Hannah stood outside for 5 minutes, gathering her courage. The lobby was all marble and ambient lighting. A receptionist smiled at her warmly. "Can I help you? I have a 2 o'clock with Connor Zimmerman." The woman's smile widened. "Of course. Take the private elevator to the top floor." "He's expecting you." Private elevator. Of course. Hannah's hands were shaking as the elevator climbed. She clutched her portfolio tighter. When the doors opened, she stepped into a space that took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist furniture that somehow looked comfortable. And Connor, standing by the window in casual clothes, jeans and a white button-up that made him look somehow more intimidating than the suit had. "You came," he said, and she heard genuine relief in his voice. "I'm curious." "Good. Curiosity is honest." He gestured for her to follow him. "The restaurant is 3 floors down, still under construction, but you'll get the idea." They took the elevator down, and when the doors opened, Hannah stepped into organized chaos. Workers everywhere, the smell of fresh paint and sawdust, the sound of power tools. But she could see the vision. Exposed brick walls, industrial lighting, huge windows that would flood the space with natural light during the day. "I want your paintings here," Connor said, pointing to the main wall visible from every table. "A rotating collection. We'll change it every 3 months, keep it fresh. And here," he moved to a smaller, more intimate space, "something permanent, your choice." Hannah walked slowly through the space, her artist's eye already seeing her work on these walls. The colors, the emotions, the way the light would hit them. "Why me? You saw my work for 30 seconds. I saw enough, and I trust my instincts. Your instincts could be wrong. They rarely are." He moved closer, and she was suddenly very aware of how tall he was, how solid his presence felt. "What do you think?" "I think this is too good to be true. I think you're going to tell me there's a catch." "No catch. I'll pay you fair market value for each piece. You retain ownership, I'm just displaying them. And if they sell, which they will, we split the profit. 60-40 in your favor." Hannah's breath caught. "That's too generous. It's fair. You're the talent." She turned away from him, looking at the empty walls, her mind racing. This could change everything. Pay her rent, buy her supplies, give her the time to paint without worrying about her next meal. But accepting meant trusting him, and trust was not something she gave easily. "What's really in this for you?" she asked, turning back to face him. Connor was quiet for a long moment, his gray eyes studying her face. "Honestly, I'm tired of surrounding myself with things that don't mean anything. I have money, I have success, I have buildings and investments and all the things people think matter, but I want to be around something real." Your art is real, Hannah. It has heart and eye. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I'd like to be around that, around you, her heart stuttered. You don't know me. I'd like to. This is insane. We met yesterday. Does that make it less true? Hannah didn't know how to respond to that. She looked at him, really looked, and saw something in his expression that made her chest tight. Vulnerability, loneliness, things she recognized because she felt them too. I need to think about it, she said finally. Of course. Take all the time you need. He pulled out his phone. Can I have your number? So I can follow up professionally. She gave it to him and tried to ignore the flutter in her stomach when he smiled. Walking out of that building, Hannah felt like she'd stepped into someone else's life. On the street, back among regular people in regular clothes doing regular things, she could almost convince herself the whole thing had been a dream. Her phone rang an hour later. Connor, did you forget something? She answered. No, I just wanted to make sure you got home okay. I'm 26 years old. I can get home fine. I know, I'm not trying to be controlling, He laughed, and it was a nice sound, genuine and a little self-deprecating. I'm not usually this awkward. You make me nervous. I make you nervous. You're the one with the building and the private elevator. That's just money, Hannah. You have something much more intimidating, talent, authenticity. You don't seem impressed by any of the usual things. Should I be impressed? God, I hope not. Hannah found herself smiling as she walked. Why? Because I'd like you to like me for me, not for what I have. I don't know you well enough to like you at all yet. Yet, I'm going to focus on that word. They talked for 20 minutes about nothing and everything. Her childhood in a small coastal town, his complicated relationship with his father, her love of early morning light, his insomnia. By the time she reached her apartment building, she felt like she'd known him longer than a day. Have dinner with me, he said suddenly. Is this a business dinner? No, just dinner. You and me getting to know each other. Hannah looked up at her building, at the cracked facade and the broken light over the entrance. Then she thought about Connor in his perfect building with his perfect clothes and his apparently perfect life. They were from different worlds. I don't think that's a good idea, she said quietly. Why not? Because you're you and I'm me, and this feels like it could get complicated. Life's complicated anyway. Might as well be complicated with someone interesting. Connor. One dinner, Hannah. If you hate it, I'll leave you alone. I'll still want your art in my restaurant because it belongs there, but I'll be completely professional, I promise. She should say no. Every logical part of her brain said no. But her heart, the part of her that painted emotions she couldn't speak out loud, said yes. One dinner, she agreed. Tomorrow night. I'll pick you up at 7. After they hung up, Hannah sat on her worn couch and wondered what she was getting herself into. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Connor. Thank you for saying yes. She didn't respond, but she couldn't stop smiling. The next evening, Hannah changed outfits 5 times before settling on a simple black dress she'd found at a thrift store years ago. It was the nicest thing she owned. She did her makeup carefully, trying not to look like she was trying too hard. At 6:55, there was a knock on her door. She opened it to find Connor in dark jeans and a navy sweater that made his gray eyes look silver. He held a single sunflower. Hi, he said, and seemed suddenly shy. Hi. She took the sunflower, touched by the simplicity of it. Not roses, not some expensive arrangement, just a sunny, happy flower. You look beautiful. You clean up nice yourself, he grinned. I was worried you'd think I was too dressed down. I was worried I'm too dressed down. You're perfect. They stood there awkwardly for a moment before both laughing. This is weird, right? Hannah said. We're both nervous. Terrifying, Connor admitted. I can negotiate $1,000,000 deals without breaking a sweat, but taking you to dinner has me completely off balance. Good. I like you off balance. You're less intimidating that way. He drove a nice car, but not ostentatiously expensive. They talked easily on the drive, the conversation flowing naturally. He took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place locals loved but tourists never found. "How did you know about this place?" Hannah asked as they settled into a corner booth. "My mother used to bring me here when I was a kid." Before everything got complicated. What got complicated? Connor was quiet for a moment, his fingers playing with his napkin. "My father built a successful business, made a lot of money. It changed him, changed our family. My mother left when I was 15. Said she didn't recognize him anymore, didn't recognize the life they were living. That must have been hard." It was. "It also taught me something important. Money doesn't mean anything if you lose yourself getting it." Hannah studied his face, seeing the pain beneath his calm exterior. "Is that why you're so careful? Why you want real things around you? Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of being surrounded by people who only see dollar signs when they look at me." "What do you want them to see?" He met her eyes. "I want someone to see me, just Connor. Not Connor Zimmerman, CEO of Zimmerman Enterprises. Not Connor the millionaire, just me." The vulnerability in his voice made her chest ache. She reached across the table and took his hand. "I see you." His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong. "That's why you scare me." They ordered food they barely tasted. Too busy talking. He told her about his business, how he'd started with one restaurant and built it into a chain, then diversified into real estate and investments. He talked about it matter-of-factly, without bragging, like it was just what happened. Hannah told him about her art, about growing up in a family that didn't understand why she'd rather paint than pursue a practical career. About her mother's disappointment, her father's confusion, her sister's well-meaning attempts to set her up with stable, boring men who worked in banks. "They think I'm wasting my life," she said, twirling pasta on her fork. "They think I should grow up and get a real job. Creating beauty is a real job. It's more real than most things people do. Try telling them that." "I will if you want," she laughed. "You're not meeting my family. They'd take one look at you and start planning a wedding." Would that be so bad? The question hung in the air, too serious for a first date. Hannah felt her heart rate pick up. "Connor, we barely know each other." "Then let's change that. Tell me something real. Something you don't usually share." Hannah set down her fork, considering. "I'm afraid," she said finally. "All the time. Afraid my art isn't good enough, that I'll end up 40 and broke and bitter, that everyone who said I should have chosen a practical life was right. I wake up at 3 in the morning sometimes, paralyzed by fear. And you paint anyway." "I have to. It's the only thing that makes sense." Connor squeezed her hand. "That's courage, Hannah. Real courage. It's easy to be brave when you're not afraid. You're terrified and you do it anyway." No one had ever called her brave before. The words settled into her chest, warm and solid. "Your turn," she said. "Tell me something real." He took a breath. "I'm lonely. I have everything I'm supposed to want, and I'm profoundly lonely. I go to parties and events and business dinners, and I come home to my empty apartment and wonder what the point of any of it is. Then I met you in that café, and for the first time in years I felt something. Interest, excitement, hope." He paused. "You probably think I'm crazy." "No," Hannah said softly. "I think you're honest, and I think honesty is rare." They stayed at the restaurant until closing, the staff politely clearing tables around them. Outside, the night air was cool and crisp. Connor walked her to his car but didn't open the door immediately. "I don't want this night to end," he admitted. "Me neither. Come with me somewhere, just for an hour." Hannah knew she should go home. This was all moving too fast, but she nodded, and they drove through the city to the harbor. Connor parked and led her down to the docks, to a spot where you could see the water stretching to the horizon. "This is where I come when I need to think," he said. "When business gets too loud, when people want too much, I come here and remember there's a whole world that doesn't care about quarterly reports or stock prices." Hannah looked out at the dark water, at the lights reflecting on its surface. "This is what I painted, that watercolor you picked up." "I know," I recognized it immediately. They stood in comfortable silence, shoulders touching. Then Connor turned to her, his expression serious in the moonlight. "I need to tell you something. About who I am, what I have. I don't want there to be any misconceptions." Hannah's stomach tightened. Here it came, whatever complication she'd been waiting for. "I'm not just comfortable, Hannah. I'm wealthy. Very wealthy. Zimmerman Enterprises is worth hundreds of millions. I have homes I've never lived in, cars I've never driven. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to feel blindsided later, and I don't want you to think I was hiding it from you." Hannah absorbed this information slowly. It explained the building, the ease with which he offered to pay her for her art, the private elevator. "Why are you telling me now?" "Because I like you, really like you, and I want to be honest from the start." "This might be too much," she hesitated, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. The weight of his world, his money, his entire life felt suddenly overwhelming. How could she, with her thrift store dress and struggling artist life, possibly fit into that picture? Connor stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her face gently. His touch was warm, steady, grounding. "Nothing about you could be too much," he said firmly, his gray eyes intense in the moonlight. "Not your doubts, not your fears, not your honesty. Don't pull away from me because you think we're too different. We're not. Where it matters, we're exactly the same." "How can you say that?" "You have everything, I have nothing. You have your art, your passion, your courage to live the life you want despite everyone telling you not to. That's not nothing, Hannah, that's everything." His thumb brushed her cheek. "I have money, so what? Money's easy. Finding someone real, someone who makes me feel alive, that's rare. You're rare." Hannah felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of liking you too much. Of this not being real. Of waking up and finding out it was all too good to be true. I'm scared too. Terrified, actually. Because I've dated before, women who wanted Connor Zimmerman's money and status. But you look at me like I'm just a guy, and that makes you powerful. You could hurt me, Hannah. Really hurt me. And I'm willing to risk that if you are." She looked up at him, at this man who had everything but claimed to need her and made a choice. She rose on her toes and kissed him. It was soft at first, tentative, testing. Then his arms came around her, pulling her close, and the kiss deepened. It was perfect and terrifying and felt like jumping off a cliff. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Connor rested his forehead against hers. "I'm going to fall in love with you," he whispered. "I can feel it happening already." "That's impossible. We've known each other 2 days." "Doesn't make it less true." Hannah laughed, the sound shaky. "You're insane, probably. Is that a deal breaker?" "I haven't decided yet." He drove her home slowly, both of them quiet, processing. Outside her building, he walked her to the door. "Can I see you tomorrow?" he asked. "I have to paint. I'm behind on a commission." "Can I watch? I promise I'll be quiet." Hannah hesitated. She never let anyone watch her paint. It was too intimate, too revealing, but she found herself nodding. "Okay, but I'm warning you, it's boring." "Nothing about you is boring." He kissed her goodnight, soft and sweet, and waited until she was inside before leaving. Hannah climbed the stairs to her apartment in a daze. This couldn't be real. Men like Connor didn't fall for women like her, but his words echoed in her head. "Nothing about you could be too much." She believed him. That was the scariest part. She actually believed him. The next morning, Connor showed up at her door at 9 with coffee and pastries. He'd clearly made an effort to dress casually, but his jeans probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. Ready to be bored. she asked, letting him in. He looked around her tiny studio apartment, taking in the canvases leaning against every wall, the paint-stained drop cloths, the organized chaos of her creative space. "This is amazing. It's a mess. It's you." He set down the coffee and moved to examine her paintings, giving each one careful attention. "These are stunning, Hannah, truly stunning." She watched him study her work, feeling exposed. These paintings were pieces of her soul, emotions and moments she couldn't articulate with words. Having him see them was like having him see inside her. "This one," he said, stopping in front of a large canvas. "What is it?" It was abstract, swirls of deep blue and purple with flashes of gold. "It's what anxiety feels like," she said quietly. "When it's 3 in the morning and your brain won't shut off." He looked at it for a long moment. "It's beautiful and terrible at the same time." "That's exactly what anxiety is." He turned to her. "Do you have many pieces like this? Emotions visualized?" "A few." "Why?" "I want to do a show. A proper gallery show, not just the restaurant. These deserve to be seen, Hannah, really seen and appreciated." "I can't afford a gallery show." "I can. Consider it an investment." "Connor, no, I'm not taking your money. It's not charity. I told you I invest in things I believe in." "I believe in you, and I'll make my money back when your paintings sell, which they will." Hannah wanted to argue, but the hope was too strong. A real gallery show. It's what she'd been dreaming of for years. "I need to think about it." "Fair enough." "Now, are you going to paint or are we going to stand here arguing?" She set up her easel, acutely aware of his presence as she mixed her colors. Usually when she painted, the world disappeared. Today, she was hyper-aware of Connor sitting quietly on her couch, watching her work. "Talk to me," she said after 20 minutes of silence. "Tell me about something. This is weird with you just watching." "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Start with your family. You mentioned your mother left." He was quiet for a moment. "My mother is an artist too, actually. Sculptor. She's in Maine now, runs a small gallery in a coastal town. We talk every week. She's proud of what I've accomplished, but she worries I'm becoming like my father." "Are you?" "I don't think so. I hope not. My father measures everything in profit margins and quarterly returns. He's successful by every conventional measure and miserable by every real one. When I started making money, he wanted to partner with me, expand. I said no. We haven't spoken in 3 years." Hannah paused her brushstroke. "That must be hard." "It is. But I watched him choose money over my mother, over having a real relationship with me. I won't make the same mistakes." "Is that why you're still single? You've been too focused on not becoming your father." "Partially. Also because I never met anyone who made me want to risk it. Until you." Hannah's hand trembled slightly. She set down her brush and turned to face him. "Connor, you have to understand something. I'm not easy to be with. I get lost in my work for days. I'm moody. I have student loans that'll take me 20 years to pay off. I wear thrift store clothes and eat ramen more nights than not. Your world and my world are galaxies apart." He stood and crossed to her, taking her paint-stained hands in his clean ones. "I don't care about any of that. I care that when I'm with you, I feel more like myself than I have in years. I care that you look at me and see a person, not a bank account. I care that your art moves me in ways I didn't know I could be moved. Everything else is just logistics." "Just logistics," she repeated, shaking her head. "Says the millionaire. Says the man who wants to be with you." "Let me in, Hannah. Stop pushing me away because you think we're too different." She looked into his eyes and saw he meant it. Every word. It would be so easy to fall, to let herself believe in this fairy tale. And maybe that's exactly what she needed to do. Take a leap of faith, like she did every time she started a new painting, not knowing if it would work but trusting the process. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay. Okay, I'll try. I'll let you in. But you have to be patient with me because I'm probably going to freak out a lot. He grinned, and it transformed his face from handsome to devastating. I can work with that. He stayed the whole day, watching her paint, asking questions, learning about her process. They ordered takeout for lunch, eating on her small balcony that overlooked a not particularly scenic alley. It should have been awkward, this wealthy man in her shabby apartment, but it wasn't. It felt natural. When the lights started to fade, Connor reluctantly said he had to go. I have a business dinner. I'd cancel, but it's been scheduled for months. Go, I need to keep working anyway. At the door, he kissed her like he was memorizing the feel of her lips. Tomorrow, tomorrow. Over the next 2 weeks, they fell into a rhythm. Connor would come by in the mornings with coffee, sit quietly while she painted, then they'd have lunch together. Evenings, they'd explore the city, finding hidden restaurants and quiet spots. He showed her his world slowly, carefully, never overwhelming her. He took her to the symphony, and she cried during a particularly moving piece. They walked through late-night art galleries, and he listened while she explained why certain pieces worked and others didn't. He introduced her to his friends, successful people who were surprisingly down to earth and genuinely kind. Hannah introduced him to her world too. Her favorite coffee shop where she sketched, the beach where she went to watch the sunrise. Her friend Maya, another struggling artist who looked at Connor like he was an alien but warmed up when she saw how he looked at Hannah. He's gone for you, Maya said one afternoon when Connor had left to take a call. Like, completely gone. I know, Hannah said, feeling overwhelmed. Is that crazy? We've only known each other 2 weeks, maybe, but he looks at you like you're the sun. Don't overthink it, just enjoy it. But overthinking was what Hannah did best. Late at night, alone in her apartment, she'd spiral. This couldn't last. Eventually, he'd see she wasn't special enough, interesting enough, refined enough for his world. Eventually, the novelty would wear off. Connor seemed to sense her doubts. One evening, 3 weeks after they met, he showed up at her door unannounced. Pack a bag, he said. We're going away for the weekend. Connor, I have work. It can wait. You need a break. We need a break. Just you and me, somewhere quiet. Hannah should have said no. She had deadlines, responsibilities. But the look in his eyes was irresistible. She packed a bag. They drove north for 2 hours until the city lights faded and stars became visible. Connor pulled up to a small cottage by a lake, remote and beautiful. I bought this place years ago as an escape, he explained as they unloaded. No one knows about it. It's just mine. And now yours. The cottage was cozy and perfect, with wide windows overlooking the water. Connor had stocked the kitchen with groceries, and Hannah realized he'd planned this, thought about what she'd like. They cooked dinner together, laughing when Connor admitted he barely knew how to use a stove despite owning restaurants. They ate on the porch, watching the sun set over the lake, painting the sky in oranges and pinks that made Hannah's fingers itch for her brushes. Tell me about your family, Connor said as they watched the stars emerge. You never talk about them much. Hannah sighed. There's not much to tell. My parents are good people, they just don't understand me. My dad's an accountant, my mom's a teacher. They wanted safe, stable careers for their daughters. My sister followed the script, married a lawyer, 2 kids, house in the suburbs. She's happy, I think. But that's not what you wanted. No. I wanted to create something that mattered, to make people feel something. My parents think I'm throwing my life away. Have you told them about me? Hannah laughed. God, no. They'd have a million questions. What do you do? What are your prospects? When are you getting married? It's too soon for that. Is it? Connor asked quietly. Hannah turned to look at him. In the starlight, his face was serious. What are you saying? I'm saying that I know it's only been 3 weeks, but I'm falling in love with you, Hannah. Maybe I already have fallen. And I don't care that it's fast or that we're supposed to take things slow. I want you in my life. Really in my life." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Connor, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." But the words were there, pushing at her throat, demanding release. "I love you too," she whispered. "It's terrifying, but I do." He pulled her into his arms and they kissed under the stars, the lake water lapping softly at the shore. That night, wrapped in each other, everything else faded away. There was no wealth gap, no practical concerns, no fear. Just two people who had found something rare and were brave enough to hold on to it. The next morning, Hannah woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and Connor's arm around her waist. She studied his sleeping face, relaxed and peaceful, and felt her chest swell with emotion. This was real. He was real. And somehow, impossibly, he loved her. When he woke, they made breakfast together, then spent the day by the lake. Connor tried to teach Hannah to skip stones, laughing when hers plopped straight into the water. She sketched him when he wasn't looking, capturing the way the sunlight caught in his dark hair. "What are you drawing?" he asked, catching her. "You being human instead of a CEO." "Is there a difference?" "Huge difference. CEO Connor is intimidating and perfect. Human Connor burns toast and can't skip stones." He tackled her gently into the grass, both of them laughing, kissing, holding each other like they were the only two people in the world. On the drive back to the city Sunday evening, reality crept back in. Hannah's phone buzzed with texts from Maya, reminders about deadlines. Connor took work calls, his voice shifting into business mode. "Come stay with me," Connor said as they hit city traffic. "What? At my place? You're always at your studio surrounded by work. Come stay with me for a few days." "I want to wake up with you." Hannah's practical side screamed warnings, moving too fast, getting too dependent, losing herself, but her heart wanted it desperately. "Okay, a few days." Connor's apartment was everything she expected and nothing like she imagined. Yes, it was huge and luxurious with views that stretched forever. But it was also strangely impersonal, like a hotel room. There were no photographs, no personal touches, nothing that said Connor lived there. "You're right," he said, watching her take it in. "It's not a home. It's just where I sleep. We should fix that." They spent the evening rearranging furniture, hanging some of Hannah's smaller paintings on his bare walls. Connor ordered pizza, and they ate sitting on his obscenely expensive couch with paper plates. "Better?" he asked. Hannah looked around. It still looked like a magazine spread, but now it had hints of life. "Getting there, you need plants and books. Actual books, not just whatever a decorator thought looked good. I'll buy whatever you think it needs. That's not how this works. You have to choose things that matter to you." Connor pulled her close. "You matter to me. You're here, so now it's already better." Hannah stayed 4 days, then a week, then 2. She'd go back to her studio during the day to paint, but she spent her nights with Connor. They fell into an easy routine, comfortable and right. He'd come home from work, and she'd tell him about her day's painting. She'd ask about his meetings, and he'd explain the intricacies of real estate development in ways that actually interested her. One evening, about 2 months after they'd met, Connor came home with a folder of papers. "I have something to show you," he said, spreading architectural drawings on the dining table. "The restaurant is almost finished, opening in 3 weeks. I want you there for the opening night." Hannah studied the drawings, seeing how the space had transformed. "It's going to be beautiful." "There's something else." He pulled out another set of papers. "I want you to have a studio, a real one bigger than your apartment with proper lighting. I found a space and I want to lease it for you." "Connor, no. Before you argue, let me explain. The restaurant opening is going to bring in a lot of people, wealthy people who buy art. Your pieces will be on display, and they're going to want to know the artist. You need a professional space to meet with buyers to work on larger pieces. This is a business investment. You're just saying that to make me feel better about accepting. Maybe, but it's also true. You're talented, Hannah. Your career is about to take off whether you're ready or not. I'm just making sure you have the infrastructure to handle it. Hannah looked at the space specifications, the photos of the studio. It was perfect, light and airy with exposed brick walls, her dream space. What if we don't work out? What if this ends? Connor took her hands. Then the studio is yours regardless. I'll put it in writing. But we're not going to end, Hannah. I'm in this completely. Are you? She met his eyes, saw the vulnerability there, the fear that she might say no. I'm in, she said, completely terrified but in. The relief on his face was palpable. He kissed her deeply, then pulled back with a grin. Good. Because I already signed the lease. Connor, what? I was confident. She hit him with a throw pillow and he caught her, pulling her into his lap. Move in with me, he said. Officially, make this place a home. It was too fast. They'd only known each other 2 months. But Hannah was tired of being careful, tired of protecting herself from potential hurt. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll move in. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Hannah moved her belongings from her tiny studio into Connor's apartment, which immediately looked more lived in. Connor helped her set up the new studio, insisting on buying her the best supplies, the perfect furniture. The restaurant opening approached, and Hannah felt her anxiety ratchet up. Connor's world was about to fully open to her, the society events and wealthy people and scrutiny. He seemed to sense her fear. They're going to love you, he said the night before the opening. Just be yourself. Myself is awkward at parties and says inappropriate things when I'm nervous. Perfect. I hate people who are fake. The opening was intimidating. Hannah wore a dress Connor had bought her, simple but elegant, that made her feel beautiful and slightly out of place. The restaurant was packed with people who wore wealth like a second skin. But then she saw her paintings on the walls, properly lit and displayed, and something shifted. These were hers. Her vision, her heart, her soul on display. She'd earned her place here. Connor introduced her to everyone as an artist, not as his girlfriend, giving her work priority. People responded to the paintings with genuine emotion, several asking about purchasing pieces. Hannah found herself in deep conversations about art and technique, and realized she could hold her own in this world after all. An older woman in expensive jewelry studied the harbor sunset painting for a long time. This moved me, she said to Hannah. Really moved me. My husband and I used to watch sunsets from our porch before he passed. This captures that feeling perfectly. Hannah felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. That means everything. The woman bought the painting for an amount that made Hannah's head spin. As the evening progressed, 3 more pieces sold. By the end of the night, Hannah was exhausted and exhilarated. You were amazing, Connor said as they rode home. Everyone loved you. More importantly, they loved your work. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it. This is just the beginning. Over the next few months, Hannah's career exploded. Gallery requests came in, interview requests, commissions from wealthy clients. The studio Connor had leased became her haven, and she spent long days there creating. But success brought its own challenges. Hannah was working constantly, driven by opportunity and the fear it could all disappear. She missed dinners with Connor, came home exhausted, had little energy for anything but painting. You're burning out, Connor said one night when she'd come home at midnight again. You need to slow down. I can't. I have 3 commissions due and the gallery show next month. Then delegate, hire an assistant, something. I can't afford an assistant, I can. Hannah felt anger flash through her. I'm not your charity project, Connor. That's not what I meant, isn't it? You pay for everything. The studio, the supplies, this apartment. I'm living off you and I hate it. Connor looked hurt. I thought we were partners. Partners support each other. Partners are equals. We're not equal. You have everything and I'm just the struggling artist you're patronizing. Is that really what you think? His voice was quiet, dangerous. That I'm with you out of pity, Hannah deflated. No, I don't know. I'm tired and stressed and I don't know what I'm saying. I love you, Hannah. Not your potential, not the project of helping you. I love you. The way you see the world, the way you make me laugh, the way you've made my life mean something beyond balance sheets. But if you can't accept help without resenting me for it, we have a real problem. He walked out of the room and Hannah heard the bedroom door close. She stood in the living room, surrounded by her paintings that he'd hung so carefully, in the home they'd built together, and felt like she was sabotaging the best thing in her life. She gave him space for an hour, then went to the bedroom. He was on the balcony, staring at the city lights. I'm sorry, she said quietly. You're right, I'm burning out and I'm taking it out on you. He didn't turn around. I'm not trying to control you or buy you, Hannah. I'm just trying to help. I know, and that's what scares me. I've always done everything myself. Accepting help feels like admitting I can't handle it. You can handle anything, but you don't have to handle everything alone. That's what I'm here for. Hannah wrapped her arms around him from behind. I'm not good at this, letting people in, trusting that they won't leave. He turned in her arms. I'm not leaving. You'd have to do something way worse than have an exhausted meltdown to get rid of me. What if I burn your toast? Unforgivable. Immediate breakup. She laughed and the tension broke. They held each other on the balcony, the city sprawling below them. I'll hire an assistant, Hannah said, and I'll try to be better about accepting help. And I'll try to be better about offering it in ways that don't make you feel patronized. They were learning each other, the hard parts and the vulnerable parts. It wasn't always easy, but it was real. Hannah did hire an assistant, a young art student named Rachel who was organized and enthusiastic. With Rachel handling the business side, Hannah could focus on creating. The gallery show was a massive success, with critics praising her emotional rawness and technical skill. More commissions poured in. Connor proposed on a random Tuesday evening, 6 months after they'd met. They were making dinner together, something they did when both had time, and Hannah was laughing at Connor's terrible vegetable chopping skills. Marry me, he said suddenly. Hannah turned, thinking she'd misheard. What? He set down the knife and pulled a ring box from his pocket. I was going to do this somewhere fancy, make a big production, but this is us. Making dinner, laughing at my incompetence, just being together. This is what I want forever. He opened the box, revealing a simple, beautiful diamond ring. Marry me, Hannah. Be my partner, my home, my everything. Hannah's hands flew to her mouth. Connor, you can say no. If it's too fast, if you're not ready, we can wait. But I needed to ask because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, of course, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger and they kissed in their kitchen, the vegetables forgotten, the future stretching bright before them. They got married 4 months later in a small ceremony at the cottage by the lake. Hannah's parents came, confused but trying, finally seeing that their daughter had found something real. Connor's mother was there, crying happy tears, whispering to Hannah that she'd given her son his heart back. Maya was Hannah's maid of honor, and Connor's best friend James stood up with him. It was intimate and perfect, nothing like the society wedding everyone expected Connor to have. I love you, Hannah said in her vows. You saw me when I was invisible. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You made me brave enough to want everything. I love you, Connor said. You made my life mean something. You taught me that the best things can't be bought or planned. You're my home, my heart, my everything. They honeymooned in Greece, 2 weeks of sun and art and each other. Hannah sketched constantly, inspired by the light and color. Connor learned to relax, to be present, to stop checking his phone every 5 minutes. "I could get used to this," he said one afternoon as they lounged on a beach. "Being lazy, being with you, just this, no schedules, no obligations. We have to go back to real life eventually." "I know, but maybe we bring some of this back with us. More time for just us." They did try. Back in the city, they made rules. Dinner together at least 4 nights a week. Sunday mornings for sleeping in and lazy breakfasts. 1 weekend a month at the lake cottage, no work allowed. Hannah's career continued to grow. She had gallery representation now, shows scheduled months in advance, waiting lists for commissions. Connor expanded his business too, but he'd learned balance. They were partners in every sense. A year after their wedding, Hannah found out she was pregnant. She told Connor over dinner at home, sliding a tiny painting across the table. It showed 3 figures, 2 adults and a small child between them. Connor stared at it for a long moment, then looked up with tears in his eyes. "Really? Really?" He came around the table and knelt beside her chair, his hand on her still flat stomach. "We're having a baby. Are you happy?" Happy doesn't begin to cover it. Pregnancy was challenging. Hannah had terrible morning sickness for months, and painting became difficult when she could barely keep down water. Connor was endlessly patient, holding her hair back, bringing her crackers and ginger tea, never complaining when she was irritable and miserable. "I'm a nightmare," she said one particularly bad day. "You're growing a human. You get a pass. I love you. I love you both." Their daughter was born on a spring morning, perfect and healthy, with Connor's gray eyes and Hannah's wild spirit. They named her Claire. Being parents was terrifying and wonderful. Connor was hands-on despite his work obligations, changing diapers and doing 3 a.m. feedings. Hannah painted less but more purposefully, capturing moments of new motherhood with raw honesty. One evening when Claire was 6 months old, Hannah found Connor in the nursery, holding their sleeping daughter, his expression full of wonder. "What are you thinking?" she asked quietly. "That I have everything. You, her, this life we've built. A few years ago I was just going through the motions. Now I have purpose." Hannah leaned against his shoulder. "Me too. I was so scared when we met. Scared of wanting too much, of dreaming too big. You taught me it's okay to want everything. You taught me what everything actually means. It's not money or success. It's this. You and Claire. Coming home to people who love me for me." They stood together in the quiet nursery, their daughter sleeping peacefully, and Hannah thought about that day in the café when she dropped her portfolio. How Connor had picked up her painting like it was precious. How he'd looked at her and seen everything she was trying to hide. She'd been so afraid of being too much, too emotional, too poor, too different from his world. But Connor had been right. Nothing about her was too much. She was exactly enough. They were exactly right. Over the years that followed, their life unfolded with purpose and joy. Claire grew into a curious toddler who loved colors and music. Connor opened 2 more restaurants, with Hannah's art featured in each one. Hannah had a retrospective at a major gallery, her journey from struggling artist to established name inspiring young creatives. They bought a house by the sea, where Hannah could paint the sunrises she loved and Claire could grow up with sand between her toes. Connor kept the apartment in the city for work, but home was the house where Hannah's paintings covered the walls and Claire's laughter echoed through the rooms. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they went back to the café where they'd met. It looked the same, still serving the same coffee, still half empty on weekend mornings. "You ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't picked up my painting?" Hannah asked. Connor took her hand. "Every day. How close I came to missing you, to walking past without stopping. It terrifies me. But you did stop. I could not stop. Even then, I knew you were going to change my life. Fate, something like that, or just dumb luck, Hannah laughed. I'll take dumb luck, me too. They sat in the same corner booth where they'd had their first coffee, and Hannah thought about that terrified woman who'd been afraid of wanting too much. She wanted to go back and tell her it was okay. That taking a chance on the handsome stranger with kind eyes would lead to everything she'd ever dreamed of, and things she hadn't known to dream about. That night, tucking Claire into bed, Hannah told her daughter about the day Mommy dropped her paintings and Daddy picked them up. "And then what happened?" Claire asked, like she hadn't heard the story 100 times. "Then we fell in love. Like a fairy tale." Hannah kissed her daughter's forehead. "Better than a fairy tale, because it's real." Later, in bed with Connor's arm around her, Hannah felt complete. She'd spent so many years afraid of needing people, of depending on anyone but herself. Connor had taught her that love wasn't weakness, that accepting help wasn't failure, that building a life with someone didn't mean losing yourself. It meant finding your best self reflected in someone else's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered in the dark. "For what?" Connor's voice was sleepy. "For not walking past that day, for seeing me, for loving all the parts of me, even the difficult ones." He pulled her closer. "Thank you for letting me, for taking a chance on me even when you were scared, for making me believe in something bigger than business and success. I love you. I love you. Always." Hannah closed her eyes, surrounded by love and safety and the life they'd built together. She'd been so wrong that night at the harbor when she'd said she was too much. Connor had known the truth immediately. Nothing about love could be too much. Not when it was real, not when it was right, not when two people chose each other every single day. Outside, the ocean whispered against the shore. Inside, Hannah's family slept peacefully. And in that moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Not perfect, because life never was, but real and beautiful and worth every risk she'd taken. She dropped her paintings in a café, and a stranger had picked them up like they mattered, like she mattered. That simple act had changed everything. Hannah fell asleep smiling, grateful for spilled portfolios and kind strangers and the courage to say yes when her heart told her to trust. Their story wasn't extraordinary in the grand scheme of things. No dramatic obstacles, no last-minute rescues. Just two people who found each other and chose to build something beautiful together. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes that was everything. Years later, when Claire was 10 and asking about love, Hannah told her the secret. Love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be brave, who sees all your flaws and fears and loves you anyway, who picks up your dropped paintings and treats them like treasure. Like Daddy did for you. Exactly like that. Connor came in then, gray streaking his dark hair now, but eyes still sharp and kind. "What are we talking about?" "Love," Claire said. "Ah, my favorite subject." He sat beside Hannah, taking her hand automatically, the gesture so familiar it was unconscious. "What do you want to know, baby girl?" "How do you know when it's real?" Connor looked at Hannah, and she saw their whole story in his eyes. The café, the restaurant opening, the proposal, their wedding, Claire's birth, every morning and night in between. "You know it's real when being with them feels like coming home. When you can be completely yourself, messy and imperfect, and they love you more for it, not less. When someone makes you brave," Hannah added, "when you trust them with the scary parts of yourself." Claire thought about this seriously. "That sounds hard." "It is," Connor admitted. "But worth it. So incredibly worth it." Hannah squeezed his hand and he squeezed back. After all these years, the touch still sent warmth through her. That hadn't faded, the magic of being loved completely. Later, much later, When Claire was grown with her own life and Hannah's hair had turned silver, they went back to that café one more time. It had changed owners, modernized, bore no resemblance to the place where they'd met. But it didn't matter. The magic wasn't in the location. It was in the choice they'd made that day to see each other, really see each other and not walk away. No regrets, Hannah asked, her hand in Connor's as they stood where it all began. Not a single one. You. Hannah thought about the scared young artist she'd been, convinced she had to do everything alone, terrified of wanting too much. She thought about everything she would have missed if she'd let that fear win. Not one, she said firmly. Connor smiled, the expression lighting his face the way it always had. Good, because I plan on spending the rest of my life with you and it would be awkward if you regretted it now. Hannah laughed, the sound full and rich. I guess you're stuck with me, best thing that ever happened to me. They walked out of the café together, hands linked, lives intertwined, hearts full. Behind them, someone else dropped something and a stranger stopped to help. Maybe another story was beginning. Maybe magic was happening again. But Hannah didn't look back. She had everything she needed walking beside her, the man who'd seen her when she felt invisible, who'd loved her when she felt unlovable, who'd proven every single day that she could never be too much. She was exactly right. They were exactly right. And that was everything.